He was just a young man on my doorstep, but I had a feeling he wasn't just there to return a book. He was about to unravel the quiet, predictable life I had carefully built. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Before we dive into this surprising afternoon, if you believe in the power of unexpected connections, press 1 in the comments below. The Tuesday began much like any other Tuesday, characterized by a serene predictability that had come to define my existence since Henry's departure and the children left home. I was Linda, a woman nurturing her modest garden of memories and marigolds in a tranquil suburban cul-de-sac. The sun was performing its enchanting late-morning ritual, filtering through the kitchen window in a perfect manner, creating tiny rainbows in the steam that danced upwards from my second cup of coffee. For months, I had intended to confront the chaotic shelves in the den, a task I had postponed for what felt like an eternity. At last, I gathered my resolve for the dusty undertaking that awaited me. At that moment, the doorbell rang out with its melodic chime. Unexpected visitors are a rare occurrence for me. Every now and then, there would be a knock at the door, often revealing Martha from next door, seeking a cup of sugar or eager to exchange the latest tidbits of neighborhood gossip. A gentle stir of curiosity awakened within me as I wiped my hands on my apron and made my way to the door. Gazing through the peephole, I caught sight of a young man poised on my porch, a book cradled beneath his arm. It took me a moment to recognize him, tall and lanky, with that unmistakable shock of sandy blonde hair that perpetually seemed to resist the confines of a comb. It was the boy from across the street, the one belonging to Caleb, Paul, and Susan. He had certainly outgrown his boyhood, hadn't he? It must be around 27 or 28 by this point. It had been a while since our paths had crossed, ever since he ventured off to college. I pushed the door open, a smile beginning to bloom on my lips. Caleb, what an unexpected delight. Step inside. His smile was shy, a gentle curve that crinkled the corners of his bright blue eyes, reminiscent of Susan's gaze. "Greetings, Mrs. Henderson. I trust I'm not intruding upon your time." "Not in the slightest, my dear. I was preparing myself to confront a towering stack of books." "What brings you here today?" I took a step back, motioning for him to enter the hallway. The aroma of aged paper mingled with the crispness of lemon polish. My distinctive home fragrance appeared to welcome him. "My mother requested that I bring this back." He extended the book, his hand outstretched. It was a cherished, time-worn edition of To Kill a Mockingbird, one that frequently found its way into the hands of others. "She completed it last week, and, as you might expect, Mom, she tends to get sidetracked." A soft laugh escaped my lips. Susan was an extraordinary woman, yet concentration was not always her forte. "Indeed, she does. Thank you, Caleb. Would you care to step inside for a moment? I have just prepared a steaming pot of coffee, or perhaps a refreshing glass of iced tea. The air is beginning to warm up outside." The words escaped my lips before I had the chance to fully consider them, a reflex born of long-standing hospitality. He paused for the briefest moment, just enough for me to wonder if he would refuse. Coffee would be delightful if it's not too much trouble. It was no trouble at all, I reassured him, guiding him toward the kitchen. "Please take a seat at the table." The kitchen basks in sunlight, its yellow walls adorned with a charming array of canisters and recipe books, creating a delightful, albeit slightly cluttered, atmosphere. The window above the sink framed a lively scene, where a spirited blue jay commandeered my bird feeder. Caleb settled into his chair, gently laying the timeless work of Harper Lee upon the checkered tablecloth. He appeared somewhat incongruous in my snug, somewhat antiquated kitchen, clad in a plain t-shirt and jeans. Yet there was a certain effortless quality to his demeanor as well. "How have you been faring, Caleb?" I inquired as I filled a mug with coffee, the rich scent enveloping the room. "Last I heard you were employed. Was it in the city?" "A certain technological innovation." With a grateful nod, he accepted the mug. "Indeed, the realm of software development. It is quite intriguing, engages my time." He savored a sip of coffee. "This coffee is truly exceptional, Mrs. Henderson. Please, dear, call me Linda." With a light laugh, I remarked that Mrs. Henderson makes me feel positively ancient. The key to the coffee lies in a cinnamon stick nestled among the grounds. A true smile blossomed on his face then, altering his previously serious demeanor. "Linda, very well. Cinnamon, is it? I shall make a note of that." He surveyed the kitchen, his eyes drawn to the photographs affixed to the corkboard beside the phone, images of my children at different stages of their lives, and Henry and me captured in the warmth of a distant beach getaway. "The atmosphere in this space is quite pleasant. My friend, it carries the scent reminiscent of my grandmother's home." That seemingly innocuous remark pulled at a hidden string in my heart. The kitchen of my grandmother was a sanctuary filled with warmth and the inviting aromas of home-cooked meals. "Thank you, Caleb. What a delightful compliment that is." We lingered in a serene silence for a brief moment. The only sounds were the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall and the faint, distant hum of a lawnmower. It was then that I observed his hands, gently cradling the coffee mug. They were hands of long fingers, exuding capability, no longer the soft hands of youth. Faint ink stains adorned his right index finger, as if he had been lost in the act of writing. "Did you find pleasure in the pages of the book?" I inquired, gesturing towards "To Kill a Mockingbird." It seemed to embody a sense of safety, a realm untouched by controversy. His demeanor became gentler. Upon my mother's completion, I found myself revisiting certain sections of it. Years have passed. It possesses immense strength. It remains impressive, wouldn't you agree? Indeed, it truly does. I consented. Atticus Finch has always been a figure of admiration for me. "Mine too," he murmured, his voice softening slightly. "It prompts reflection on various matters, particularly the importance of making the right choices, even in challenging circumstances." He fixed his gaze on me then, his blue eyes unexpectedly piercing. "It seems that true Atticus figures are becoming increasingly rare in our world, don't you think?" His inquiry, strikingly straightforward yet tinged with a hint of sadness, took me by surprise. It was the last thing one would anticipate from the neighbor's son, who had merely come by to return a library book. It was the sort of inquiry that typically emerged after sharing a few glasses of wine with longtime companions or during the hushed, contemplative moments of the night. And that, I suppose, marked the initial tremor, the first indication that this encounter would transcend mere polite, superficial conversation. The atmosphere in my sunlit kitchen grew denser, imbued with an ineffable tension. As I leaned in, an earnest curiosity stirred within me, compelling me to absorb his next words. What transpired following that seemingly innocuous inquiry? Indeed, that caught me off guard. He didn't truly pause for a response. It was a notion, articulated into the air. He delicately traced the rim of his coffee mug with a fingertip. He continued, a subtle furrow creasing his brow. People are often hasty to pass judgment, their voices raised with certainty in their opinions. Yet, how many are truly prepared to take a stand for their beliefs? Listening seems to have become a forgotten craft. I discovered that I was nodding slowly. I understand your perspective, Caleb. The world seems to resonate with a cacophony, a clamor that feels more pronounced than before, and often it is not a pleasant sound. The relentless stream of news and the ceaseless debates on social media loomed over me, drawing me in as a hesitant participant, unable to fully evade their grasp. Exactly, he said, a look of relief washing over his face as he realized I grasped the concept. In the realm of technology, my profession revolves around the idea of connection, or so they say, bridging individuals from every corner of the world. Yet, at times, I ponder whether we have merely discovered new avenues to misinterpret one another, with an intensity and speed unmatched in history. He let out a brief, slightly wistful chuckle. I apologize if I came across as overly philosophical. Lately, it has been a thought that has occupied my mind. No, there's no need for apologies, I insisted, and I truly meant it. It was invigorating. In truth, how frequently do I engage in conversations of this nature these days? My friends and I typically engaged in conversations about our gardens, our grandchildren, the latest aches and pains. Important matters indeed, the essence of life, but seldom did we delve into this kind of exploration. It's an intriguing notion and somewhat unexpected to come from someone of your generation. If I may express my thoughts, I tend to link that sense of world weariness with those of us who have seen more seasons pass. He wore a sincere, nearly youthful smile this time. Perhaps I am merely an old soul, or perhaps it is the influence of the books. My mother often remarked that I had my nose buried in a book from the moment I learned to read, yours among them. He gestured toward the copy of Mockingbird. This particular work, The Great Gatsby, Fahrenheit 451, provokes deep reflection. Indeed, they do. I whispered, my thoughts wandering to the neglected shelves in my study, a quiet homage to a lifetime spent in pursuit of knowledge through tales. How amusing that you bring up Fahrenheit 451. I found myself contemplating a return to that text. It seems to resonate more profoundly in our current times, wouldn't you agree? The notion that knowledge can be perilous, that individuals might choose to relinquish their autonomy in thought. Caleb's eyes sparkled with excitement. Indeed, it truly does. The manner in which Beatty articulates the rationale behind the burning of books is unsettling, as it reveals glimpses of such occurrences in our reality. Individuals opting for effortless amusement rather than engaging with anything that poses a challenge. He leaned forward slightly. The previous shyness entirely vanished, supplanted by a vibrant enthusiasm. I attempted to broach the subject with a few colleagues, but they regarded me as if I were an alien. Their attention was captivated by the newest superhero film or the latest viral sensation. A sharp sensation of familiarity washed over me, not from frequent conversations about dystopian novels with my peers, but from the understanding of clutching a thought or a passion that seemed out of place among those surrounding me. Finding individuals willing to explore beneath the surface can prove to be quite a challenge. I took note. Indeed, he remarked, his gaze dropping to the mug in his hands, a hint of that previous reticence resurfacing. Thank you for allowing me to express my thoughts freely, Caleb. I spoke softly. It was not a mere ramble. The exchange was not just a dialogue. It was a captivating exploration of ideas. I filled his cup with coffee before pouring some for myself. The afternoon sun had moved, stretching its rays to create elongated shadows that danced across the kitchen floor. A pair of chattering sparrows took the place of the blue jay, which had flown away. What other thoughts or readings have occupied your mind lately? It was a modest invitation, yet it seemed to unlock a door I hadn't known was shut. For just a fleeting moment, he paused, a subtle smile gracing his lips. "Ah, since you inquired." The dialogue resumed effortlessly, as if it had never paused. This time it feels simpler. Our conversation meandered through the realm of literature, touching not only on plots and characters, but delving deeper into the essence of storytelling itself. It revolved around the concepts they ignited, the emotions they evoked, and the inquiries they prompted within us. His words carried a sincerity, a profound insight that captivated my attention. He spoke of the relentless demands of his swift-moving career, the sensation of being merely a tiny gear in an immense mechanism, and his subdued yearning to pursue something greater, something significant, even as he grappled with the uncertainty of what that might entail. I absorbed every word, genuinely absorbing them, perhaps in a manner I hadn't engaged with anyone in ages. There existed no agenda, no compulsion to provide solutions or counsel, merely the profound act of listening to another's musings, their hushed aspirations and worries. In his words, I discovered reflections of my own youthful self, that time of exploration and inquiry that appears to diminish amidst the rhythms and obligations of middle age. He inquired about Henry, my children, and what it was like to grow up in a different era. He was sincere in his demeanor. His voice carried a sincere curiosity, a yearning to comprehend. I discovered that I was revealing thoughts I hadn't voiced in ages, recollections that had been resting quietly, shrouded in the mundane layers of daily existence. I reflected on my youthful aspirations of becoming a journalist, a fervor I had momentarily shelved when the call of motherhood beckoned. I even revealed my secret affection for classic black and white films, those adorned with clever dialogue and dazzling stars. "You aspired to be a journalist," he inquired, his demeanor contemplative. "What held you back from pursuing it later, once your children had grown?" The inquiry was straightforward, yet gentle in its approach. I halted, gazing through the window at the sparrows now contentedly pecking at their meal. "Life, I suppose," I remarked with a weary exhale. "It possesses an uncanny ability to guide you down a certain route, and in the process, you may lose sight of the other paths you once yearned to traverse, leaving you with a sense that time has slipped away, rendering those dreams unreachable. In my view, the opportunity to wander a trail is never lost, Linda." Caleb spoke gently, his eyes unwavering as they met mine, perhaps simply in an alternate manner. His words, unadorned yet sincere, carried an unexpected gravity. It was far from a mere platitude. It seemed as though he was presenting me with a heartfelt conviction. In that instant, gazing at this young man, my neighbor's son, whom I had only ever recognized as a child from across the street, I experienced a connection that was both surprising and deeply significant. The surprise unfolded gradually, lacking any jarring clangor or theatrical epiphany. It unfolded gently, a subtle awakening of consciousness. The revelation lay in the discovery of unexpected commonality, emerging from the most improbable settings and among the most surprising individuals. It was the unexpected revelation of genuine recognition, both of oneself and of another, possibly for the very first time. The afternoon lingered, the light outside transforming into a warm golden hue, and I sensed that this conversation held a unique significance, one that would remain etched in my memory for a long time. The grandfather clock in the hall struck 3, its soft, resonant chime echoing through the air, signaling a subtle change in the afternoon's tranquil cadence. Caleb turned his gaze toward the source of the sound, a spark of recognition igniting in his eyes, as though he were recalling that life beyond this kitchen continued to unfold. "Wow, it's already 3 o'clock," he remarked, a hint of astonishment coloring his tone. "Perhaps it's time for you to return to your day. I realize I have occupied a considerable amount of your time." "Not at all, Caleb," I replied, and it was the most honest statement I had made all day. This experience has truly been a delightful one. I truly meant it. The towering stack of books in the den had faded from memory, replaced instead by a sense of buoyancy, an unforeseen bond of companionship. He rose to his feet, and I followed suit. For a fleeting moment, we lingered by the table, the echoes of our coffee and dialogue suspended in the warm air that enveloped us. A serene quiet enveloped us, not uncomfortable, but rather a shared moment that recognized the significance of what had transpired between us. "Once more, I appreciate the coffee, Linda," he remarked, his previous timidity giving way to a genuine warmth, "and for the dialogue. It's a rare occasion to engage in conversation about Atticus Finch and the nuances of dystopian futures with someone who truly understands." A smile graced my lips. The delight was entirely my own. "Caleb, it's reassuring to see that there are still individuals who immerse themselves in profound literature and engage in deep contemplation." He grasped "To Kill a Mockingbird" from the table, pausing to contemplate it for a moment. "You know," he said, gazing at the tattered cover, "there are several books residing at my parents' home. I believe you would appreciate some classic science fiction, particularly the kind that provokes deep thought. Perhaps I could bring a few over sometime, if you wish." The offer was laid back, but it carried a weight that transcended mere politeness. It was a threshold, a glimpse into the potential of future dialogues. To my own astonishment, I discovered that I was truly wishing for him to do so. "I would truly appreciate that, Caleb." I mentioned that I'm perpetually in search of new old books, if that resonates at all. His grin conveyed a clarity that resonated deeply within me. He made his way down the hallway. I strolled alongside him at the threshold of the door. He halted, pivoting to meet my gaze. The afternoon light streaming through the side windows cast a warm glow on his face, accentuating the sincerity reflected in his blue eyes. "Honestly, Linda," he said, his voice dropping slightly, filled with sincerity, "thank you. I find myself navigating through a sea of uncertainty. Recently, my job is adequate and covers the expenses. Yet there are moments when I find myself pondering the purpose of it all, especially in our conversation today. It proved to be beneficial. It instilled in me a sense of stability. His confession, such openness and vulnerability resonated with me profoundly. A young man stood at the threshold of his life, wrestling with the timeless existential questions that resonate across generations. He was confiding in me, a woman he had barely known for an hour. It was a precious offering, that unique kind of trust. "Caleb," I murmured, my tone just as gentle. At times, we all experience a sense of being unmoored, regardless of our age. What truly matters is the pursuit of those moments of connection, those dialogues that anchor us in our shared humanity. They exist beyond the ordinary, often lurking in the most surprising corners. I smiled, reflecting on how this seemingly mundane Tuesday had transformed into something extraordinary. Yet he locked eyes with me, a moment of deep comprehension exchanging silently between us. It lacked the essence of romance, at least in the traditional understanding of the term. It was an experience unlike any other, something perhaps more elusive and in its own right, more valuable. It was a convergence of intellects, an acknowledgement of our common humanity, a fleeting instance of authentic compassion that surpassed the boundaries of age and situation. This was the genuine astonishment, the exquisite, serene revelation of it all. The atmosphere shifted, becoming quieter and infused with a sense of optimism. "I'll see you around, Linda," he said as he swung the door open. "Likewise, Caleb, kindly extend my greetings to your mother." With a nod and a subtle wave, he vanished from sight, descending the porch steps and crossing the street. I observed him for a brief moment, a tall, contemplative silhouette fading into the well-known scenery of our neighborhood, a scenery that, in that instant, seemed to carry an altered significance. I eased the door shut, pausing for a brief moment as I leaned against it. The kitchen fell into silence once more, interrupted only by the soft hum of the refrigerator and the faint echoes of life from the neighborhood beyond. The aroma of coffee hung in the air, now intertwined with the subtle, elusive fragrance of shared ideas and unforeseen connections. I stepped back inside, my eyes drawn to the two empty coffee mugs resting on the table. These seemingly mundane objects held the weight of a momentous meeting, transforming into artifacts of something profound. The mountain of books in the den had yet to be confronted by me. I found myself neglecting all the chores I had intended to tackle. Instead, I had inadvertently discovered something profoundly more fulfilling. I found myself intertwined with another soul in a way I had never expected, awakening a part of me that had lain silent for far too long. It was an exhilarating sensation, a spark of curiosity, a revitalized appreciation for the world and its inhabitants. My neighbor's son stopped by to return a book, and in that simple act, he restored a fragment of my own essence. I strolled to the window above the sink, gazing out at my modest garden. The marigolds glowed with a fiery orange hue under the warm embrace of the late afternoon sun. Henry had always held a deep affection for marigolds. He remarked that they resembled tiny suns, shining brightly even amidst the overcast skies. For a long time after he passed, gazing at them had evoked a sharp twinge of sorrow. But today they appeared vibrant, joyful, and brimming with vitality. Caleb's words lingered in my thoughts, a gentle reminder that it is never too late to venture down a trail, even if it means doing so from a fresh perspective. The dream I once held dear of becoming a journalist had shifted. It was no longer about the prestige of bylines in a prominent newspaper. Perhaps it revolved around something more straightforward. Perhaps it was about seizing narratives, even the tiniest of them. Perhaps it was about being fully present, genuinely observing the world that enveloped me, noticing the subtle narratives and surprising links that emerged daily, even within the tranquil confines of a suburban cul-de-sac. I reflected on the conversation, noting the effortless transition we made from courteous exchanges to profound musings. The encounter was devoid of pretense or awkwardness, flowing instead with an effortless grace. It served as a poignant reminder that true connection thrives not on elaborate displays or theatrical moments. At times, the essence of connection lies in the quiet intimacy of two souls sharing a cup of coffee, each open to the art of genuine listening. The first jolt I registered in my mind wasn't rooted in scandal or drama, but rather in the deep understanding of how effortlessly we can misinterpret or ignore the individuals in our midst, even those we encounter daily. Caleb had transcended the role of merely being Paul and Susan's son. He was a contemplative soul, an introspective being with a vibrant inner world, someone who could engage in profound dialogue and offer unexpected revelations. And perhaps in his gaze, I transcended the role of Mrs. Henderson, the unassuming widow from across the street. Perhaps he perceived something deeper as well. That evening, rather than succumbing to the familiar lure of the television, I discovered myself reaching for an old, empty notebook and a pen. The ink flowed with an unexpected grace. I refrained from delving into lofty philosophies or attempting to unravel the complexities of the world's issues. In the afternoon, I captured the essence of sunlight streaming through the kitchen, mingling with the rich aroma of coffee and cinnamon. I observed the earnest gaze of a young man as he passionately spoke of books, dreams, and the quest for meaning. I depicted how the dialogue had flowed, akin to a serene brook brushing against unforeseen banks. There was a certain satisfaction in the act of writing, in transforming those swirling thoughts and emotions into carefully chosen words. It resembled the journey through a hidden trail Caleb had spoken of, not a route leading back to a past aspiration, but rather a fresh course, distinctly mine to traverse. I came to understand that the journey of self-discovery extended beyond merely perceiving Caleb in a new light. It was also about perceiving myself in a new light. I was more than a mere assemblage of previous identities: wife, mother, widow. I remained Linda, an individual open to forging new connections, embracing fresh thoughts, and pursuing personal growth. The meeting had been fleeting, merely a few hours on an unremarkable Tuesday, yet its effects were still unfolding. It had gently prodded me from a cozy, perhaps overly serene, routine. It evoked the delight of shared intellect, the exhilarating connection that arises from the convergence of thoughts. It had unfolded with a profound sense of mutual respect, revealing shared vulnerability in the most gentle manner. Several days later, I encountered Susan, Caleb's mother, at the grocery store. "Linda!" she had exclaimed. "Caleb mentioned that he enjoyed a delightful conversation with you recently. He truly relished both your coffee and the delightful conversation you shared. He even mentioned that you discussed some of those profound books he enjoys." She radiated joy. "It brings me joy to witness him forging connections with others. He tends to keep to himself, wouldn't you agree?" A smile graced my lips. "He is an exceptional young man. Susan, you and Paul truly excelled in your efforts." I truly meant it. He stood as proof that thoughtfulness and depth remained cherished virtues. The world may be filled with noise, as I had mentioned to him, yet there exist serene spaces and hushed dialogues where genuine understanding can emerge. That Tuesday afternoon, my small kitchen had become one of those places. I was uncertain whether Caleb would arrive with the sci-fi books he had spoken of. In the broader context, it held little significance. The essence lay in the experience, the unforeseen treasure of that afternoon. It served as a reminder that life, even in its more subdued passages, could still unveil surprises, still present moments of deep connection and personal evolution. It had taken me by surprise, indeed, but in the most delightful manner. It stirred me from my slumber, a gentle nudge to keep both my doors and my mind ajar, and for that, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The book he returned explored themes of justice and empathy, and in a subtle, intimate manner, our conversation mirrored those themes as well. It revolved around the importance of perceiving one another with clarity and fostering connections rooted in respect and openness. I believed this was a narrative deserving of remembrance.